In 1932, Australia commenced a military operation designed to cull the population of emus that had been causing issues for farmers in Western Australia. Now, Australia declares war on emus could easily be considered the funniest headline in human history. If it had not been followed up by its sequel, Australia declares war on emus and loses. And for the longest time, I thought that this was the most pointless, self-defeating conflict to have ever existed. And then I started talking about Civ with people on the internet. Dear God, is it a wasteland out there. Specifically, the rise of social media coincided with the Civilization series introducing 1 unit per tile, and it has been the most pointlessly controversial, time-wasting debate imaginable in the last 15 years. Which is saying something. It's not that there's nothing to discuss, in fact, there's plenty to discuss. It's just that the discussion has become so obtuse and so far from where it needs to be that we might as well not even be having it. And that's too bad, because it's something that we need to fix. Civilization pioneered the 4X subgenre of strategy games, and recently it's become a pretty decent city builder style game too, but as a tactical strategy game, it has flirted with mediocrity, with or without 1 unit per tile. So we're going to break this down. We'll learn the history of 1 unit per tile in Civ, what the real problem is, and what it would take to make Civilization a good tactical strategy game. I also have this box with me. It contains unspeakable evil, so we're not going to be opening it. But we will talk about XCOM. First things first, let's dispel some myths. The whole thing rests on a false dichotomy. You could have 1 unit per tile, or infinite, but you could also have any number between those two extremes. You could do it like Songs of Conquest, where you unlock the ability to have bigger stacks. But leave that aside, I'll say it right now, 1 unit per tile is a perfectly valid system. It's in frickin' chess, for Pete's sake. Imagine chess if you could just move your rook through your pawn at the start of the game. That would be nonsense, because chess is designed around 1 unit per tile. It's a fine system. What matters is the implementation. People talk too much about the system, and not enough about the implementation. XCOM has 1 unit per tile too, and I've body-blocked myself from getting through doorways once or twice, but that doesn't even scratch the top 10 list of the most frustrating XCOM experiences. If 1 unit per tile is implemented well, it should be frustrating exactly 1 time before you learn how it works and adapt. Just like every other strategy or game design quirk. Like building a trade route to your neighbor in Civ 6 so that you can use the road to kill them. It only works once. Or in an FPS, things like camping or crouching over someone's body in an attempt to tilt them into recklessness or rage quitting with a simulation of their corpse being defiled in a quasi-sexual manner, which was kind of messed up to do that to a 12-year-old, don't you think, XX Blaze Gamer XX420? And you should really apologize and let me back into your custom lobby Halo Super Bounce games. Point number 2, unit stacking is also a fine system. Just like chess wouldn't function if you could stack units, Risk wouldn't function if you were limited to 1 unit per tile. I mean, I know Risk is not exactly the paragon of good game design, or even, how do we put this, fun? But despite this, Okay, this was a mistake, guys. Replace everything I just said with Europa Universalis or Rome Total War. You can pile the units on top of each other. Nobody cares. It is fine to have preferences between these two options. I've always felt that Civ games should prioritize systems that are quick, because the scope of each game is enormous. But that's just me. Fundamentally, if you design around them, unit stacking is fine, 1 unit per tile is fine. The literal infinite possibilities of options between these two extremes are also fine. So why does it not feel like it's fine? Well, it varies from game to game. To answer that question, we need to go way back. Civilization 1 allowed infinite unit stacking. However, if someone attacks your stack outside a fort or city, and you lose the whole stack. The system reappeared in Civ 2. This was extremely punishing, but it let you stack your units out of combat for convenience, while also giving you a strong incentive to split up units during battles. But there was a bizarre lack of realism to it. Losing your catapult if the spearman protecting it died made sense. Losing a second destroyer if the enemy killed your first destroyer didn't make any sense. To make it balanced, it also required a really annoying zone of control system, so altogether it wasn't something that the public would tolerate long term. Next is Civ 3.
Sweet. Open the box. Open the box. Sweet.
Hey, I told you guys we're not going to open the box. All you need to know is that they left unit stacking in, but this time around, you don't lose your whole stack if you lose one battle. Civ 4 also allowed unit stacking, but in reaction to Civ 3, they added counterplay against stacks. You can damage the whole stack by attacking into them with artillery, although you better be sure that you can kill the stack because your artillery usually dies in the process. It also introduced more rock, paper, scissors elements where, for example, axemen deal bonus damage versus melee units. This makes unit stacking more powerful because it will make you fight the defender that is best tailored to take on your attacking unit. So, stacks can be frustrating here. It really needs a way to bombard stacks and do splash damage without losing your artillery. Maybe something like Alpha Centauri. But generally, things are quick, tactics are not the star of the show, and unit stacking is what allows it to be quick. Doom stacks in Civ 4 got a lot of criticism, so Civilization 5 introduced a 1 unit per tile restriction. This led to more focus on unit movement, but also a lot of frustration with narrow choke points and units tripping over each other's feet. Civ 6 kept the same system, but relaxed it a bit by adding corps and armies. The main issue here was identified by the creators of Old World. The map is just too small. Given the scale of unit production, especially at higher difficulties, you are just not given enough space to maneuver. If they simply make the map bigger, those issues go away. Oh, they'd also need to fix the AI, but fundamentally, 1 unit per tile absolutely can work in Civ. But none of this answers our question. Even when we're fighting in just an open plain and not getting bogged down by choke points, the tactics in Civ 5 are only just pretty good. Same thing with Civ 1 and 2 when we're not dealing with zone of control. In each case, there's an issue or two, but removing that issue doesn't magically make the combat great. So what makes a great tactical strategy game? To answer that, we need to look at fucking XCOM, baby. This is the gold standard of tactical strategy, so give this game a fair shot before you say that you don't care about combat and strategy games. We'll be using the 2012 remake today because I'm not a total masochist, but many games in the series are top-notch. XCOM doesn't penalize you for clumping up units. In theory, having your units together could be very strong. Like, if you have 4 soldiers on Overwatch, and the enemy just walks up to you, then yeah, you get defeat in detail, and that's quite strong. But it's just not the only strong thing that exists. The key thing about XCOM, and I cannot stress this enough, is that it gives you incentives to spread out. It doesn't just penalize you or forbid you from clumping up. So what are these incentives? Well, there's splash damage. It's more of a penalty, but some attacks will damage multiple tiles. There is flanking. You get combat bonuses for coming at the enemy from multiple angles. There is vision. If your units are spread out, you can see more of the map. Especially if you have the high ground, which also gives you a combat advantage. And some maps have specific objectives that you want to get to, like civilians to save or bombs to disarm. This applies to meld or reviving downed allies, too. Sometimes you're okay reducing your effectiveness in combat if it gives you some sort of long-term reward. And if the AI is programmed to care about the stuff, everything I just mentioned is doubled. You want to flank the enemy, but you also want to spread out your units to stop the enemy from flanking you. You want good positions with cover, but you also want to deny the enemy from taking these positions themselves. XCOM does have 1 unit per tile. It uses that restriction effectively, but not exclusively. For example, if you're peeking around the corner of a building, you can shoot from full cover, but there's only room for 1 soldier to do that. But some maps have terrain where multiple soldiers can shoot from cover together, right next to each other, or share the same high ground. This is important, because if clumping is the good thing, and the game is just punishing you for doing the good thing, or preventing you from doing the good thing, it's bound to cause frustration. If the game instead gives you a few different powerful options with different trade-offs, then it's a lot more satisfying to play. So, this is a list of everything that makes for a strong, complex tactical strategy game. Can you find these things in Civilization? It varies from point to point, but in single player, aside from maybe Civilization 6, not nearly enough. In the realm of objectives, things are pretty sparse. Generally, it's just the cities. Otherwise, you don't care about where the combat takes place, and you don't have anything else to do with your units, until Civ 6. Later Civ games introduced rewards for pillaging. Civ 6 was the game that made pillaging really strong, and made it a serious consideration in the game's tactical decision tree. I also like the introduction of sieging a city in Civ 6 by surrounding it with your units. The games do have different types of terrain. Civ 4 is probably the best example. You do get combat bonuses in Civ 5 and 6, but the AI is too dumb to fight over good positioning, and the map is just too small for you to have a choice as to where you pitch your battle. In Civ 4, the AI will park their stack on forested hills with a 75% defense bonus, so you're better off placing units on those tiles to contest them. Good. Civilization 6 does have a mechanic called flanking. It rewards you for surrounding the enemy with multiple units, which is really just bringing more units to the battlefield. Defeat in detail, not splitting your units up. Ironically, if Civ 6 wasn't a 1 unit per tile game, then flanking would encourage you to spread out your units. But as things are, no, aside from making cores and armies slightly worse. In Civ, the AI can see all tiles at all times, so there's not really a point to try to deny them vision. Civ 1, 2, and 4 have splash damage, but this was removed in Civ 5. There's no area of effect attacks, aside from nukes. Overall, in most of these games, the defeat and detail benefit of stacking outweighs everything else. Civ 6 is the exception. I think that if the map was big enough to maneuver properly, it would feel good to spread out your troops. But if Civ 5 didn't force your units onto separate tiles, you'd probably just want to keep them in a stack. I'm sorry guys, I think at this point we're going to have to open the box. Ready? Here we go. Horrors beyond man-made comprehension. Defensive bomb. Infinite stack upgrade strategies. Oh my god, here it is. The one game where they made no effort to penalize you or prevent you from stacking your units. Let's take a look at this depravity. Ooh. Look at these big strong men all piled on top of each other. Yeah, that's nasty. Oh. Huh. Wait, what? The fuck is going on here? This is Civilization 3. This is the stacking stackety stack game. Why are they spreading out their units? To get to the bottom of this question, I talked to the number one player in the Civ 3 multiplayer scenarios called Modern and MPT. Oh fuck, that's me. Let's talk to the future expert. Hey Rabdag, what's good, man?
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, in a game of Future, the enemy is deploying 10 modern paratroopers end of turn. Which of these formations is scarier to you? Picture A or Picture B?
Picture B.
I thought Civ 3 was supposed to be the unit stacking game. Why would they want to split up their troops?
In Picture A, I can get all the units I need to defend my city, but in Picture B, all of my reinforcements are cut off. He could hit me anywhere, cut resources, or block tiles.
So, there's a lot going on in Civ 3. Let's compare it to the XCOM list. First off, due to a bug, the cruise missile actually does splash damage in multiplayer, and you can punish players for keeping their units stacked, just like in Civ 4. Secondly, one massive thing that Civ 3 introduced to the series that people completely ignore is dynamic vision. Mountains and hills allow you to see further away. Crucially, in Civ 4 they made mountains impassable, so Civ 3 is the only game where you can use them. 100% defense bonus, 2 tiles of vision in all directions. Civ 4 and later entries still have hills, which are a reduced version of the same concept, but the defense bonus of a hill was reduced to just 25%. In Civ 6, it's just +3. This is increased if the hill has a forest or jungle on it, but if a hill has a forest, then neighboring tiles likely also have forests, and in that case the hill doesn't actually grant you much additional vision, because you can't see over other forests with just a hill. Civ 3 mountains are so important because they give vision, and a huge defense bonus to hold on to that vision. Stacks are strong, but if they see your stack coming, you won't get much done. This lines up with high ground cover from XCOM as an essential point on the map that you need to control. There's a lot more, though. Here is every single benefit to splitting up your units in Civ 3. Pay attention to that last one. It is key. If the enemy is going to pillage my oil, I need to put units on my oil. If the enemy is trying to cut my ability to reinforce an important city, I need to kill their blocking units and guard that path. If the enemy blocks my high food tiles and stops me from drafting, I need to retake those tiles and guard them. If I have an incentive to split up my units, then the enemy also needs to split up their units to stop what I'm doing. And here are the benefits to stacking your units together. And 2 of these only apply on defense. If you're attacking someone, the only benefit to doing it with a stack is that it's faster. So with simultaneous turns, the enemy has less time to react and reinforce the tile. Since the benefits to unit stacking only apply on defense, you want to attack from multiple angles to split their defense up. So basically, this game also has flanking. And I bet a lot of this applies to Civ 4 and 5 multiplayer too. It just doesn't apply to single-player Civ. What's the point of contesting vision if the AI sees the whole map at all times? What's the point of sneak attacking a backline city if the AI is too dumb to keep most of their units in the front line? So, what's the takeaway from this? If you have a dynamic set of rewards for spreading out your units, then tactics are complex, and the game will be great, whether or not it is 1 unit per tile. You can see this in XCOM, but also multiplayer Civ. We can have good tactics in this series. On the other hand, if there's no inherent reason to spread out your units, then the tactics will be mediocre. Restricting people to 1 unit per tile, or punishing them for stacking units, will not magically make your combat system good or complex. You need to design intricate systems, and then you need the AI to use those systems. So that's the whole story. Unit stacking is good, 1 unit per tile is good. What matters is the execution. And what makes the execution good is many different incentives to split your units up. That's all for today, everybody. Let me know in the comments what you think is the most misunderstood game design issue in strategy games. I'll see you guys next time.